In our society, there's this common misnomer that bigger is always better. In fact, there's a lot of people in the statue community that automatically assume bigger is better. They stupidly equate price and size. If it costs a lot and it's big, it must be good. That's not always true. However, as we look at this custom Magneto statue today, I have to agree with the stupid people, at least on this guy. But he does not have presence. I will die on that hill. He's big. Wouldn't you rather have a girl tell you you're big than you have presence? Hey, my name is Mr. X. Welcome to the Extreme Channel. We are giving away $1,000 statues to you guys. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Welcome to another Extreme review. I am really excited. It's so funny because recently I've just got in some amazing statues. I unboxed and reviewed XM Studios Maestro B, version B, this giant statue right here recently. Check out the review if you haven't. And I thought that it was my most anticipated statue of the year. I am impressed by this, and I just unboxed him last week when I filmed these. So just really impressed. This is a custom Magneto vs. Sentinel. Now the irony of this statue is I didn't need this. I didn't want it. And the reason for that is one of the favorite statues in my collection is one of the first reviews I did on YouTube. This statue right here. Go back and check it out. That's going to be especially important because it's a very similar concept, but it's a hand compared to this head with a lot of other variances. And the reason why I say it's so important is I pretty much have to decide which one is better, this one or that one. You can't actually, you can barely see it right there. See it back there? Because I can't really justify sitting two of these right next to each other. It'll destroy my entire scheme. However, they are both fantastic. So you know what that means. Later this month, we are going to do an Extreme Rumble or an Extrumble. We're going to put both of these on the table and pray to God the weight holds and do a comparison video between the two. Because there are a lot of similarities. But enough with that. We're just going to talk about this guy today. And like I said, if I'm a little giddy, I really like this one. I'm surprised how much I like it. Let's kick off the review starting with the concept, and this may be one of the coolest vs. Sentinel concepts out there, and there's some incredible ones. You see some of them always behind me, and you can barely see one of my favorites, this Rogue one right here, where she's ripping the Sentinel head in half. Well, let's see if this one beats those. First of all, I love what they did with the base. So instead of having a traditional base or something he's standing on, whether it's a sentinel or a street, it's his power of magnetism. So he may not even be on the ground. This may be up in the air. He may be floating. It's swirling all over the place. You see pieces of metal everywhere, and he is doing a museum strut, a museum walk. Not only is he doing that, but you see pieces of metal on his cape as well. You see him in his classic Magneto outfit. His diaper's a little smaller than normal. We'll talk more about that later. His cape really isn't flowing too much. I would assume that it should flow more if he was walking, so maybe he is just levitating. You can pick your poison. But behind him, you see a giant sentinel head starting at the spine. And what's really cool about this is certain angles you look at it, you don't really see the spine or the neck, so it almost looks like it's levitating as well. And that's even more apparent when you see his right arm pushing out with more of the magnetic power swirling around it. So he truly is taking this Sentinel head and throwing it with his magnetic power. It's a destroyed Sentinel head. There's pieces everywhere. The mouth is actually open, which is something we haven't seen before. There's some light up features we're going to look at. There's wires and discombobulated stuff everywhere. We don't know if Magneto did all this to the Sentinel or if he just finished it off and is using it to destroy other Sentinels, or maybe he's using it to destroy the X-Men. But this is an amazing concept. Without a doubt, I think it's a 5 out of 5, very hard to beat. Now, one thing about the concept, even though I give it a 5 out of 5, I think that, people might argue, Mr. X, this doesn't make sense. Sentinels aren't magnetic. That was kind of their defense mechanism against Magneto. Well, I agree with that. That just wouldn't be cool. So, deal with it. Now, a statue this elaborate is going to have some design issues no matter what you do, which is why a licensed company would never take this on. This is a custom. It was a private unlicensed commission. They only made a few dozen of these. Now, normally I would do an unboxing and assembly, but this thing had between 50 and 100 pieces. I didn't even count it. Here, you can see it in the unboxing here. It was actually 3 different boxes, and I had boxes all over my house due to all the unboxings that I was doing. But here's the 3 boxes. They all had your custom black foam with straps. and tons of layers here. You're going to see how many different pieces I was talking about. And I just threw these pictures in here. I don't remember if they went with each one. So we're going to talk about how this would be difficult to re-box up and resell. But as you can see, it just continues to go on and on. There was a small video we're going to talk about, but figuring out where all these different pieces went was definitely not easy. So I said I didn't do an assembly. Obviously I assembled it, but I didn't do it on camera for a number of different reasons. One, it was very difficult. They did have a video, which was semi-helpful, not without its issues, but 3 big problems with kind of the assembly and the design of it. Number 1, I had some extra pieces. I went back and watched the video. One of these, I do know where it's supposed to go. It's supposed to be in the magnetic power in the hand here. I don't have a keyhole for that one, so clearly QC wasn't done. And the other ones, I don't know where they go. I was also missing some pieces that they had in the video. But honestly, you can't really tell. They're all some of the wires and stuff that are hanging down. Then another issue is the second or third piece I put on was actually a kind of a spine piece that goes all the way down right here. Well, unfortunately, the way mine was designed is it has to go underneath the bottom part of the Sentinel head, and then on the outside of the neck, and then touching the bottom. And there is no way it can do that. Clearly mine wasn't assembled. It broke when I tried to put it together. Now, you really can't tell because, like I said, this is a destroyed Sentinel, so it's not really a big deal. It may hurt resale value if I ever can resell it. But that's kind of the third problem. I don't know how to move this, whether I repack it up and try and resell it and ship it, or if I just need to move it to the top shelf. I am scared to death. It's so back heavy. I don't think it'll fall over just sitting there. But you almost have to disassemble it to move it. Then the problem is, if you don't have 360-degree access to this, you can't reassemble it either. Not to mention what a pain it would be to spend another 1 to 2 hours to assemble it. Another thing I want to talk about. Right up here, this magnetic power on his hand is actually 4 pieces of translucent resin. Now, they have to be hooked together. You have 2 ways to hook them together. Number 1 is to glue them, but again, if you glue it, you can never kind of reship it. It'll probably break. Or 2 is use some putty that they gave. The problem with using the putty is you can actually see the putty through the translucent resin. When we get to paint and sculpt, you'll see close-up video of that. But I don't know a better way to do it, so I'm not really bashing them for it. I'm just bringing it to everyone's attention. There are 3 different portraits and some light-up features. Let's look at those. So your first portrait is a normal portrait with painted eyes, his helmet, and all these expressions I'm not a huge fan of. He's too calm in the midst of battle, but maybe that's what makes him a badass. Then you have a portrait with a helmet, and his eyes can light up as you see. And what's really interesting about these light-up features, it's something I've never seen before. They not only provided the batteries, but they provided the encasements for the batteries, and you just tighten them and they turn on. So it's a fairly easy way to do it. And that also was the same way with this unmasked portrait. So it has the light up eye feature that you can see the translucent eyes, and then here it is lit up, and the hair comes off. So it's really easy to turn on the light up feature considering its batteries. And the same thing can be said about the Sentinel eyes right here. They have that very, very similar light up feature. It's a red instead of a white light, but you can see it lit up here. That looks pretty cool. But again, light up features are kind of a gimmick. It's stuff I'm never going to use. Let's try and measure him. So the widest point with his cape is probably about 22, 23 inches. The base itself is probably 17, give or take. The depth of the base is maybe 18. However, the Sentinel head goes back much farther. You can see that. And then the tallest part is just under 32 inches. 30. You might want to budget 33 just to be safe. So quarter scale, 4 times smaller than a real life version. But what I love about these is I think the Sentinel heads are actually scaled correctly. You know, I used to own Sideshow's one where I actually liked it a decent amount. It's nothing compared to this, but the Sentinel head was always really small. That always bothered me. So despite my issues with this, they frickin' pulled it off. They pulled it off. I'm hesitant to give it a 5 out of 5. You probably saw me hesitate there because it's like there are issues with it. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 on design. I don't think I can give it 5 out of 5. While 5 out of 5 doesn't insinuate it's a perfect score, it's still very impressive and definitely one of the most elaborate statues. And like I said, they pulled it off for the most part, which is impressive. Paint and sculpt, they also did a really nice job. It'll be interesting when I do the extreme rumble between this one and the other one, because this is factory painted and that was professionally painted. That was actually the prototype. But here's some close-up video of the paint and sculpt. So much to digest with this piece. On the bottom here, this magnetic, clear, translucent resin, semi-translucent I guess I should say, is awesome. Not only is it awesome, but I love how pieces are keyed into it. Not only some of the pieces that I personally put, but just some naturally in there. Really gives you that magnetism effect. I love the different shades of purple. It almost gives it some movement. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Again, kind of hard to go around the entire thing. And the fact that where the keyholes are, most of them are decently hidden. You do see one there. I think that's even better while it's more of a design thing. Magneto's great. A few things I question on him. I don't question his anatomy anymore. You know, having owned so many Magneto statues, they're all overly buff like this, which never sits right with me, although it does look cool. His quads are usually a little over the top. That's the case here. Although one of the things I question is his quads are a little bit thicker near the knee than they are up top. It's almost a miss on anatomy in my opinion. Maybe it's just the way he's walking. I've never really examined mine. The other miss, I think, is his package. It's long and skinny, I think. Like, just kind of weird. Traditionally, you don't see that. He is wearing the diaper. It's not as prominent as it is on some of the other ones. But I love the shading on him. They went a little too much on the dark shading in between the muscles, although that's very typical with Magneto. You see it almost every single time. I love the metallic shine on his boots. Now on this, you know, we talked about it earlier, you can see some of the sticky tack just to hold things together because I don't want to glue it. So there is a solution around that, but other than that, this also looks great. Be cool if it lit up, although I'd probably never use it, so not really a bash on that. The cape, I think, is a little too light on this side, in my opinion. Now, granted, I have very bright spotlights on it, but I think that it's a little bit too light shaded, should have been a little bit darker, but it does contrast the base and the Sentinel nice with a different shade of purple. And I could say the same thing about the back. It doesn't flow as well as some Magneto capes do, but it's not bad. And again, this is the back, which you're rarely looking at. With the Sentinel, it's so heavy it's moving the turntable a little bit on its own. Amazing job on the Sentinel on every single level. You know, it was such a pain in the ass to put all this stuff in, but it makes it worth it. And if you look at the detail on some of this, not only the sculpted detail of the bent pipes and rods and wiring, but where it's broken and scratched and battle damaged, and then the contrast, you can see some copper and silver colors along with the blacks in there. Really looks like it's been through hell, which if you're facing Magneto, you have. So really good job on the Sentinel. You know, I don't think we've ever had a Sentinel with an open mouth. So look at everything back there. And on top, just really, really over the top with the detail. I can't imagine how long it took to actually sculpt the Sentinel, even if you had like a basis. So the same person who sculpted this sculpted most of those up there, including the Rogue, the other Magneto. But I believe, I might be wrong on that. Anyway, you know, I think I'm wrong on that actually. I think it's a different sculptor. I retract my words. But I do like that they added different colors to the wiring. It just helps it mix it up and make it not as monotone. But what's interesting is the lighting really makes a difference. So you see the red wiring here, same color up here, but much darker because the lights just aren't on it. So in the back here, I had a black wire that was missing. That's one of the ones I talked about that was missing. But yeah, you could just look at this and find different details, vents, all this awesome battle damage. These pipes up here just literally goes on forever. Would have been cool for more light up features, although I'll probably never use those despite the ease we talked about. Then last, I want to look at the portrait. So it's not bad by any means, but I feel like I've seen better, and maybe it's the expression on his face, and it's calm on every single portrait. And like we talked about on these, you kind of have to have the lights on, really, otherwise it looks a little wonky. And it's not bad. The paint job, the skin tone is good. The hair looks fantastic on this. So I think it is more the expression than anything, but I have seen better, but it's still a pretty damn good portrait. So literally we could look at the paint and sculpt for hours on this, but I would definitely say it is a big hit in my opinion. Sculpt, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 overall. I think that the Sentinel is better than Magneto, but it's still very good. It's very above average. I'm impressed. Paint, I think I can go 5 out of 5. Really well done. The black shading is a little too much, but like I said, I'm used to seeing that on Magnetos. I really like this. And the base itself just really helps that as well. You know, back in the day, these pieces were going for about $1,500 to $2,000, plus shipping was usually at least another $500. And they would flip for like 2 to 3 times that, most of these Sentinel, big Sentinel pieces behind me. So I was pretty shocked when the retail price on this was $1,500. You know, those are 4 or 5 years old, I feel like, at least 3 years, if not 4 or 5 years old. And it seems like everything has gone up about 20 to 50% in price because our economy is doing so well. Oh, this is uncomfortable. I think that's a good price for this. I really do. I mean, that is technically cheaper than some quarter scales you're getting from Prime One Studio. And you're not going to find something more elaborate with this, especially knowing they only made 45 of these. That's a very low edition size. While there are a lot of great Magneto statues out there and a lot of great Magneto vs. Sentinel statues, in fact, years ago I did a countdown. You can check out best Magneto statues right here. I think this one would definitely be in the top 5. Realistically, I'm $2,000 all in at a minimum, probably closer to $2,100 I think on this. Then if I had to resell it, I'd probably pay at least another $300 to ship it, so I'd have to sell it for $2,300, $2,400 just to break even. I think I could do that. I think that people that are big X-Men collectors, they could go for this. But I think the value is a 3 out of 5 overall. You know, nowadays you can't spend $2,500 on a used statue that has some design issues. So while I could probably make my money back, I don't know if I want to. I need to figure out which one I'm going to keep. And that's why it's important you not only like this video, but you sub to the channel and hit the bell notification so you can see that comparison video and what we're going to do. Does this have the X Factor? I said this with the XM Studios Maestro. This is a no-brainer. It has the X Factor. That's what's really cool about this. It's amazing, an amazing concept. I like this statue a lot. I can't believe it's going to give one of my favorite statues a run for its money, and it could be even better. Who knows? We'll find out, but this definitely has a 5 out of 5 statue overall, in my opinion. Few changes, you know, would have been nice for some arm switch outs maybe, and some different expressions on the portrait and angry portrait. And then just the ability to move it. God, I think I'm gonna video this when I'm gonna need my wife's help and probably my son's if we do put it up there. I'm gonna need their help just to get this part out for the Extrumble. I'm gonna do that in the next day or two. You won't see it for a few weeks, but really appreciate you guys watching. What do you think? Could this be the best Magneto statue? Throw that down in the comments. I love to read your comments. I love to interact with you guys. Not to mention that could win you a statue. As we try to grow this channel, we like to reward you guys for watching and subscribing. So because of that, every 5,000 milestone when it comes to subscribers, we give away a couple $1,000s worth of statues. We've actually given away over 20 statues. To win one was easy. First, you gotta be subscribed to the channel. You'll get bell notifications when videos drop. Each video that drops, you wanna make a comment on those videos. We pick a random video, we give away statues based on a comment. You can say whatever you want. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Very excited about this piece. Thankfully, I have a few days to try and move this stuff around and figure it out. But at least give me a like, because I will probably hurt my back, without a doubt. If not, I'll break this. Not purposefully. Take care of yourself.